Hello, and welcome to another episode of Still Not Famous. This is episode 8, entitled Pride in the Name of Love, where we dive into the history of pride and LGBTQIA plus culture within the media and modern and popular culture. I am joined by my regular co-host today. He's coming out. Here's Nathan.
Thanks, Josh. I'm out. I'm out here. I'm out. I'm proud. I'm fabulous. How are
Out
you?
of out of the pub or just out in general?
I've not been in the pub. The sunshine's been glorious this weekend, so I've just been in the garden, with a couple of drinks. Yeah.
Do you know what? I've been that typical Brit where I'm like, oh, it's been cold. When's it going to get warm again? And then once it is warm, I forget how pale and intolerant of the heat I am. And I'm like,
It's
Before,
glorious.
definitely. Before we dive into this episode, do you reckon it's worth giving the listeners a brief little historical overview of Pride?
Oh, I think so. I think we'll be able to hopefully educate some people, myself included.
Okay, Nathaniel. So I'm going to put my teacher's hat on and try and educate us all on Pride. So, to kick off, most people trace modern Pride back to a movement at the Stonewall Uprising in New York in 1969. So, at the time, being openly gay was heavily stigmatized, and the LGBTQIA plus spaces were often targeted in police raids. But during one raid at the Stonewall Inn, people fought back. This resistance was led largely by queer people, trans people, drag queens, and in particular, queer people of colour. And a lot of people signal this as the turning point for LGBTQA plus activism around the world. In the US, a year later, the first Pride marches took place to mark the anniversary of Stonewall. And over time, these marches spread globally, and today Pride Month is recognised every June in many countries around the world. To tie this back to our UK roots, so the first official Pride March happened in London in 1972. This was approximately around 2,000 people walking through the streets, demanding equal rights at a time when simply being openly gay could cost you your job, your home, or your safety. And it's also important to remember that this was only a few years after homosexuality had been partially decriminalised in England and Wales in 1967. And even then, the law still treated LGBTQIA plus people very differently. The decades that followed brought both progress and backlash. So during the 1980s, the AIDS crisis devastated the community globally, while governments and media often responded with silence, fear, or outright hostility. In the UK, many LGBTQIA plus people also lived under Section 28, which was a law introduced in 1988 under the Tory government during Thatcher's reign. Boo! That banned schools and local authorities from promoting homosexuality. So for a whole generation, this ultimately created a culture of shame and silence around queer identity. Although, in modern age, a lot has changed since then. Pride has never been just about a celebration. It's always been tied to visibility, protest, and ultimately the ongoing fight to equality, which is what makes Pride history important. It's not just the story about the past, it also explains why Pride exists in the first place and why ultimately it still matters now. Especially in this day and age, while there is still much progress to be made with discrimination, for instance, against trans rights, and the ongoing fight against representation.
No,
So,
brilliant. Well done, Josh. Yeah, no, that's great.
oh, thank you. I'll take my hat off.
Mm.
Uh, so let's dive into it. We are a first and foremost a pop culture podcast. So let's dive into what was your first moment of witnessing queer culture? Do you remember any particular one?
Yeah, I think in the early 80s, being quite young, for me, probably the first time I was aware of the gay culture was probably the during the unfortunately during the AIDS crisis. Again, during the early 80s. I probably would, like I say, I'd probably have been about 8 or 9. But it just seemed like it was all over the news, and in the papers at the time, and this sort of yeah, I don't know. I mean, obviously with a lot of scaremongering, but then you'd have all these sort of lovely images of dear Princess Diana visiting the hospitals and consoling and hugging patients. And it just seemed like it was a really strong statement, even though I didn't, understand it much at the time. But I think again with a lot of the news images, that that they were showing the scene, the gay scene and a lot of the nightclubs and everybody, you know, these little snippets and images and stuff. So I think for me that was definitely um, something that really, well, like I say, made me aware that there was this culture, of the culture. What about you?
So it's interesting you mentioned the AIDS crisis because obviously it's a big part of LGBTQIA plus part of their history. And the main reason Pride has been ongoing within the US and the UK is it didn't just start with the first brick being thrown at Stonewall. Obviously, there was an AIDS crisis. When I was growing up, it was in the 90s, so it's kind of at the tail end of the AIDS crisis. So I'd hear kind of odd
Mm,
references here or there, but I wouldn't necessarily know what it meant per se. Obviously, when Princess Diana died in 1997, there'd be references to it in the news and all of her philanthropy work, but I didn't really understand at the time because I would have been six. But to me, the first kind of moments in pop culture where I kind of took note was it'd mainly be kind of in soaps. So, for instance, on Coronation Street, you'd have the queer character on that program, or the big one for me was because they were kind of my age group, it'd be the characters of John Paul McQueen and Craig Dean from Hollyoaks, who went through their own kind of sexuality awakening story. And I remember that being very current with kind of the age group I was at and kind of figuring out my own sexuality. So that was the big one for me, but also not forgetting in the mainstream when Brokeback Mountain came out. And that at the time, I mean, heaven forbid, it's really normalized now, but it was like, oh my gosh, two straight actors playing like a gay role. Oh, this film's going to bomb. And then it ended up doing really well critically. So that was probably another big eye opening one for me as well.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I remember there used to be a TV show on around about 6 o'clock in the evening. I think it was on BBC Two, but it was called Film, whatever the year was, Film 84, Film 83 with Barry Norman. It was hosted by Barry Norman. In review films, so that's where I'd always see, the up and coming films that were going to get released at the cinema. And I remember him reviewing My Beautiful Laundrette with the legend Daniel Day-Lewis. And obviously, it was a love story, And of course, another one he reviewed was one of Hugh Grant's first films, 1987's Maurice. I don't know if you know it, but it's set in 1909 and based around the University of Cambridge about two friends that, blossoms into a relationship. But there were obviously, it's a bit of a drama and tragedy and all that as well. But that again, I think by this point I was starting to be aware of the culture and the scene, and
Yeah. Do you know what? I've seen a bit of My Beautiful Laundrette because in the first year when I did history in sixth form, we were doing, ironically, history and pop culture, and our teacher put it on for us, and I'd heard that it was a gay film. So when it was on, and other people obviously didn't know it was, I was kind of waiting for the moment where the two characters would hook up. I've never seen Maurice, though. I've heard of it. Would you rate it? Would you say it's a good film?
yeah, yeah, definitely brilliant. Yeah, if you haven't seen it, you definitely. It's been a long time since I've seen it, but it's I remember it being quite powerful.
Oh, good. I'm glad. I suppose I'm not sure if you kind of felt the same or whatnot, but going back to when I was talking about soaps, now I'd like to preface this with that I don't have any hate to actors or anyone who played these kind of roles, but back in the day, it was very much like a oh, it's a gay character. They're the gay best friend stereotype, or they're like the comic relief character, or they're on it for all of 5 minutes in that week's episode, if you're lucky, or a combination of all of those things. Do you tend to agree, or was that just the 90s era that I grew up with?
No, I think you're pretty much spot on. I think, yeah, there wasn't many action heroes, was it? Put it that way. You know, um, it was like you say, more the best friend, comedy relief sort of character. Sadly,
I feel like as years have gone on and it's become more mainstream per se, I feel like it has kind of evolved from being those comic relief characters to kind of people who are more at the forefront of hard hitting stories and not just seen as the comic relief character. Was there a moment for you, whether it was watching a certain piece of media or any other thing, where you feel that being part of the LGBTQIA plus community was a bit more cool and gritty and deep rather than, oh, there's the gay character, like that's the gay best friend? Is there a particular one that you can think of?
no, I don't think there is. I mean, not that I can pull out of my head. I mean, like you say, there was. It's very difficult, isn't it, to really pinpoint somebody that really stood out other than them sort of characters. I mean, for me, music was the one where they were really um, flying the flag. A lot of pop stars, wasn't it, at the time? I mean, even going far back as like David Bowie with his Ziggy Stardust persona. Um, no, yeah, it's hard to pinpoint um, on TV or movies for me.
I would have to agree with you on the music front. First of all, my dad and my mum, from what I remember, were big David Bowie fans. Funny fact, my dad used to have the Best of Bowie CD, and on the front cover, I used to find when I was younger how David Bowie looked on it really menacing and scary. But in terms of pop stars for my era, obviously he'd already had the previous influences of like Madonna, Freddie Mercury, Elton John, George Michael, kind of the big names. But in terms of rising stars, I was right there for when Lady Gaga was first on the scene, and it seemed very kind of like she was campy, theatrical. Her music was catchy. She was cool. She wore extravagant outfits. I feel like for me, that was kind of one of the first big LGBTQA plus pop stars that was on the scene. I was there for that wasn't a previous reference. I mean, you can make comments on how Lady Gaga has taken inspiration from different pop stars back in the day, like Madonna, for instance. But she was the first one I was there for that was up and coming when I was around and not a previous reference. And plus, it felt like every single gay person I knew was obsessed with her. So she was definitely, to me, in terms of music, the first kind of mainstream one from my era where it was like cool to be gay and a Lady Gaga fan, admittedly. In terms of TV, around the same time, I'll probably say, do you remember the program Glee that was directed by Ryan Murphy?
Yeah, yeah, I remember Glee. I remember watching a few episodes of Glee, and I really enjoyed it. I thought it was quite thought provoking and quite hard hitting in places, wasn't it? Yeah, good show, good show.
Do you know what? When you describe to people what Glee is or what people know of it, they're like, oh, that's the program where they just randomly burst out into song. And it's like, yeah, that is like a big part of it. I'm not going to lie. But it's actually quite adult and hard hitting in places. So, like case in point,
Mm.
I had the other half sit and I rewatched seasons 1 to 3 a couple of months back. And he'll sat there watching it with me, and he makes a comment at one point where he goes, "Oh, do you know what? This is kind of different from what I imagined it to be." The program itself is as camp as anything, but it does do really cool, hard-hitting moments. And again, a program from era I was growing up. Admittedly, the last kind of couple of years I was in sixth form. In fact, I think season 1 aired within my last year of sixth form, but something I could definitely relate to in a program at the time where it was a bit of a cultural phenomenon. Admittedly, it wasn't one for a massively long period of time, but I remember when it came out and it was all the rage. Like everyone was talking about it. So I'd say, yeah, that was definitely the one for me.
Yeah, no, it's a good choice, good choice.
If you had like a celebrity where you were like, who was the first celebrity to be out and iconic? For you, would it be the Freddie Mercurys or the Elton Johns of the world, or would you have someone different in mind as your first one?
Probably going back again to the 80s in my small mind, but probably I'd have to say somebody like Julian Clary, because he just seemed like, you know, well, again, around that time, I mean, I didn't have anybody around me or in my family that was gay. So again, apart from what I'd seen on the telly, or starting to pick up on the telly, but then also, like I say, Julian Clary. I mean, he was quite flamboyant and in your face, and he just seemed like he was on everything in the 80s and 90s. Of course, he also won. Didn't he win Celebrity Big Brother? Was that 2012?
Yes,
I
yes, he
think.
did. I do remember. Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, I'd say yeah, Julian. It's like I say, with full on makeup and really in your face. But he was brilliant. I think he still is when I've seen him. I know he's not about much now, but um, yeah, he was. Yeah, I thought he was pretty good.
Oh, nice. I think my answer is actually going to be very different. So cast your
Mm.
mind back to around 2004, 2005 time. Do you remember a band called the Scissor Sisters?
Yes, see him live.
Oh my gosh, what was that like, first of all?
Really good. That was Glastonbury main stage 2004. They got everybody moving and dancing. It was brilliant, brilliant. Put on a great show.
You know what? Fun fact, I didn't realise how filthy their band name was until I was in my late 20s and I learned what Scissor Sisters actually meant. So I feel a bit embarrassed to say it took me that long to find out.
It
But
makes me wonder if anybody doesn't know, are they going to start Googling it now?
I'd say Google, but Google at your own risk. And maybe make sure the blur filter is turned on if you're looking on Google Images.
Yeah. I'll have a look later myself.
But going back, so yeah, so I remember when the Scissor Sisters were first on the scene. I actually remember buying their first album. Now, my dad used to have a Range Rover which had a CD changer of like you could put six different CDs in it, and I remember throwing my Scissor Sisters one in there, and I thought to myself, "Oh, this is like really camp. I'm not sure if my dad's gonna like this or whatnot." My dad loved it. I remember I sat there with my dad, and in the back of the car, I can't remember what reason. I think they must have come up for something, but it was my Uncle Malcolm and my cousin Stuart, and the song Laura comes on. Now, I'm not sure if you remember that song from them, but at the start, it's got a little bit of a piano-y bit. And I remember my cousin Stuart going, the intro to this sounds like an episode of Thomas the Tank Engine. And ever since he mentioned it, whenever I hear the song now, I do hear it a little bit. But I remember watching their Brit Award performance in 2005, and they had like giant puppets on the stage. And again, camp as anything, but I honestly loved it. Just their music in general, obviously very camp. Obviously, a lot of their lyrics talk about, things that are not that the average straight person would sing about. Let's just put it that way. But it was something a lot I could relate to, especially the song Take Your Mama, which has references to mums finding out about some sexualities and all of that. And they were kind of my first musical before Lady Gaga. You had Jake Shears from the Scissor Sisters, who was kind of my musical gateway into LGBT culture. And you know what? I listened to the album
Yeah,
in preparation for this episode, and it still kind of slaps, to be honest.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I mean, obviously, do you remember you when you knew you were gay first time? It sort of really, I don't know, when you knew and accepted it yourself,
It's going to sound
if that
like I'm
makes
giving
sense.
a really wishy-washy answer, and I don't mean to, but this is legit how I felt at the time. So I knew there was something off about me, but I didn't know. Well, I say off like it's a bad thing. It's not a bad thing, but let's just say I knew there was something different about me at the same time. So I knew there was something different, but I didn't know what. And people would often say to me, "You're more sensitive, more feeling than the average kind of boy I was around when I was growing up. Now, I assume sensitive to just mean a bad thing, like I just cried a lot. uh, but I mean, I still cry a lot now if I feel emotional. I kind of, I look at those little hints there. I remember in my teen years, I suppose when I was talking about that Craig Dean and John Paul McQueen story from Hollyoaks, and I remember thinking, oh, I'm enjoying this, but I think I'm enjoying it because I like the idea of two male characters essentially going through their journey and getting it on. But it was still a bit confusing because I still thought I liked girls. I suppose I really knew when I was about 16 or 17. But by that point, I remember sitting and watching Newsnight with my dad with Jeremy Paxman back in the day. And
Yeah.
I'd like to add, although I'm going to come out with a dark comment, this story does get better. So I sat there watching it and it was talking about, remember when they were talking about gay marriage being legalized and Elton John and David Furnish were going to be like the first UK celebrity couple to get married?
Yeah, I remember. That's it. Yeah.
Yeah, I sat there with my dad and he literally turned around to me and went, disgusting, isn't it? And I remember sat there thinking, I kind of know I might not be as hetero as he would have liked. So I thought, well, this has got to be a secret that I take to the grave. But eventually, so my mum knew when I was 18. I don't think I told my dad until I was 20. And that was purely because I had a boyfriend at the time. And I kept ducking out to see them. And my dad made a comment of, oh, where do you keep going? And I think he thought I might have been doing drugs or something. And I remember throwing something in the bin, not giving him eye contact, and went, oh no, I'm off seeing my boyfriend. And then he turns and he goes, boyfriend? And I turn around and I'm like, yeah. And for what felt like the longest 2 seconds of my life, there was silence. Then he went, oh, okay. And just carried on reading the paper. So, discuss, minus his comment aside, when we're watching Newsnight, he has been someone who has never really shown that much of an interest in the past, or came out with those comments to then, obviously, Nate, you were there on my wedding day, helping me
Yeah.
walk down the aisle. So I do believe people
Yeah.
do go through a journey. I think what helped was I referenced it on our very first episode, but my dad and his brothers, every single one of them has a gay son. So I'm one of, let me count one, 4 gay cousins. So I think with exposure to that, my dad kind of like turned his viewpoint around. So I have to say thank you to my gay cousins. So I'll give them a shout out. So that's Tyler, that's Andrew, and that's Billy. I'm actually older than Billy, so I suppose more of my thanks goes to Andrew and Tyler through exposure to them prior to me. They helped pave the way. So I mean, they're family, so I'm always going to be thankful anyway. But yeah, I don't think they realise as being themselves ultimately helped me a lot down the line. So shout out to them and thank
Oh,
you. So
beautiful.
yeah, it is beautiful. And I still keep in contact with my cousin Andrew. We'll message on Instagram, sometimes frequently if we've got a lot of stuff to talk about, but sometimes there's a bit of a gap. But I'm always thankful to have that relationship there. He actually messaged me recently about our dating episode, and he went, "Oh, I'm surprised it wasn't all about Grinder." To be honest, and he said we should do a Grinder centric episode at some point. And I responded, going, "I'm not sure how safe for work that would be." But yeah, so I feel like I myself didn't come out for ages because one, I kind of didn't really want to admit it to myself, and then two, I was a bit like, I don't really know how my dad is going to react to this. Like, based off that comment, I was like, probably not well. But then as the years have rolled by, he's gone from someone who came up with that comment to being a massive ally. So yeah, but while I could sit here and glaze about my dad, I also have to give a shout out to the people that have always been there, which is my mum, my siblings, my friends. So yeah, I'm fortunately surrounded by quite a good little support network, yourself included as well, Nate. So give yourself a
Yeah.
pat on the back there.
Good people all round.
Did you just say that because yourself was included in that?
Yeah. What about you? Your ally. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I feel like
Oh,
with the ever-changing world and an exposure to other family members, and then myself coming to terms with it, that's where we are today. Speaking of the ever-changing world, though, obviously within this day and age, I mean, last 2 years probably a bit more shaky than others, but do you feel that with how do I say this? If I said to you rainbow capitalism, would you get what I meant by the term?
I think so. Yeah, I think I get what you mean with the whole hell rainbow, mm, yeah, images and it's sort of yeah, yeah. But again, I don't know if I'm honest, I'm educated enough to have an opinion on that, if you know what I mean.
So
I suppose
you're
it's like
not
everything.
you're not far off in the slightest. So basically, rainbow capitalism is essentially you have a lot of corporate businesses sponsoring Pride during the month of June, and essentially they'll change a bunch of their products to have like rainbows on them, or I believe it was M&S who had the LGBT sandwich, and essentially they'll show a lot of their support during Pride Month. But within that comes a critique of, is it legit, or are they just essentially cashing in on it to make money off of the what they call the pink pound? So what is your opinion? Do you
Like
reckon
that.
it's a bit 50-50, or do you reckon it's more one-sided than not?
Well, again, I can't really say I can comment. I suppose it's like anything, though, isn't it? Always starts out well with good intentions, and once it gains something gains momentum, and then it takes a detour down the old corporate direction. And like you say, the pink pounds are involved now. Pink pound, look at that.
I yeah, I do love that term myself as well. I think it's it's a bit of a mixed bag for me where yeah, I think corporations are going to jump in and try and make money wherever they can. I mean, it's capitalism, it's corporations, of course they are. But at the same time, I think we potentially also have to pick our battles and say it's good to have the support while it's there because decades ago it wouldn't have been there. There's always the argument that people can do more, but at the same time, it's going to sound awful. I don't want to say be thankful for what you have, but at the same time, I think something is better than nothing.
Yeah, yeah.
Also, especially in this day and age where actually within the last couple of years, with the rise of the political state in the world, you actually have more companies not advertising Pride as much and kind of taking a bit of a step back because you have the rise of the far right and fascism more in people's algorithms. I mean, every single year, without fail, I'll see a TikTok video, at the minimum, probably about between 5 and 10, where during Pride Month, it'll be someone going, I can't believe gay people get a whole month, but the military only get like one day. And it's like, well, you clearly don't care about the military that month because the military actually gets several days. And if you're an American, there's Military Appreciation Month. So you clearly can't care about it that much. So people obviously
Mm.
will just take their opportunity to whinge and hate at the same time.
Just have people.
Yeah, agreed. And it's always the
Mm.
same. You'll look at their TikTok feed, and it's like, well, let's see if they said anything during Appreciation Month. No, they said nothing. With the rise of the current political kind of landscape, you also do get I suppose, within the last, I want to say it's the last 5 or 6 years, you've had the rise of people using the word woke as a label to essentially mean something is diverse and bad, essentially. I mean, just to clue in our listeners, if you've ever heard the term woke, but you're unsure as to what it actually means, woke originally means to be awake to social injustice. So I always find it funny when people are like, "You're woke," and it's like, "Yeah, I am." Like, thank you. I am aware of social injustices, but people use it essentially as a weapon to basically say, "Oh, there's like minority group at the forefront of this piece of media that I watch, and I don't like it, and I hate it." Or they'll just use it. They'll just use it as a term to flag something off. They'll be like, "What in the woke is this?" Not with it having zero context. So, with that being said, do you believe that things are too woke, like we are overrepresented in media, or do you reckon it's an equal playing field?
I think it's an equal playing field, isn't it? I think over the years I've noticed there's, more adverts on TV that show, a diverse range of couples and families when they're advertising the brand or whatever they're selling. Um, it's and so it should be really. It's we do live in a diverse world, and we should all just be who we want to be. But as far as yeah, going over the top with it, I said no, I don't think so. I think it's an equal playing field for everybody, or it should be. People that moan about it, and like you say, they really need to sort of get a life and get out there and live. Yeah,
I heard a great expression once where it said, uh, equality to people who are in a place of privilege feels like oppression. Would you would you tend to agree with that statement? Do you reckon that's why people are
yeah,
so
I think so.
backlashy?
Yeah, yeah. No, I agree. Yeah, I agree with you 100%.
To give people context, with the exception of Hollyoaks back in the day, or when a character would make a random other appearance in a soap, if I wanted to watch something LGBTQIA plus related, it'd either be on really late at night or not on at all. So, if anything, I'm really glad you have stuff out there like Heartstopper, Love Simon, and other way more widely available queer media, because essentially
Yeah,
I'm all for people having a variety of choices. And plus, what I always find funny is if it's not something queer centric that someone will watch and there'll be like a gay character in it, they'll be like, oh my God, like I can't handle this. And it'll be like, that's one character in an ensemble cast of like 10 people. So that's like 10%. Like, really?
yeah. That's it. Well, I remember. I think I've spoke about it before, but I go back. I go back to that Brookside storyline with Beth Jordash, um, kissing another girl before 9 o'clock. And people just lost their minds, or some people, and the paper ran with it and said they couldn't believe it was on before 9 o'clock, before the watershed, and yeah, it just seemed like so overblown, and now where we are now, again, like I just said earlier, it's everybody, every race and sexuality, diverse is sort of represented um, on TV and in music and branding with adverts. It can only be a good thing. I mean, we're not we're not clones, are we?
No, exactly. And I think a lot of people tend to hide behind the guise of, oh, like when somebody think of the children, and they'll use that as an excuse to try and get things banned. I mean, we live in a day and age where people are banning books, like, sound oddly familiar to past history. You have people
Mm.
saying that unfortunately trans people are groomers, that LGBT people are groomers, and they'll use the phrase of, oh, somebody think of the children, and then you'll have the people in power who have been mentioned in very famous files regarding a private island recently who seem like they are the bigger threat to children more than anything else. But do you hear a whisper of it in the main media? Are they being banned? I don't think so.
Yeah.
So we live in a very sorry state of affairs at the moment.
So, I mean, yeah, I remember a story, reading a story about a father that had, who's, I think, sadly, tragically, his son had took his own life because he couldn't face um, saying, you know, coming to terms and telling his parents, his dad, that he was gay. So, and it always stuck with me, that did, for such a long time. And all three of my kids, I've always just said to them, because of that, I would, um, I just want them to be happy. So whoever they love, wouldn't does not bother me, and there's nothing to do with me, and I'd be happy for them as long as they're happy, because I'd rather have all my kids alive and happy being who they want to be than not here because who they should be. So that's what I was saying.
Oh, that's such a horrible story. Like, imagine being like that to
Yeah,
your own child.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah.
And I think as
There are
well,
people, isn't there, sadly?
yeah, and I think as well, like, surely it's more effort to be hateful than not care. Like, why do you care so much?
Yeah, yeah. Because just because people just don't understand, do they? And they're not educated, and they think, I mean, what is normal? Some people think normal is this, I don't know, being, like I said earlier, being a clone, being the same. But it's not. We're diverse, and we should live in a world where we can be who we want to be, love who we want to love, and I'm all for that. So,
Yes.
like I say, some people aren't.
Speaking of no one being a clone and people, basically, it's ideal that people be who they are. Do you reckon in this day and age, you always have the yearly argument of is pride still needed anymore? What is your opinion on that? Do you reckon it's needed now more than ever, or nay?
No, I think so. I don't. Yeah, I think it. Yeah, I think it's more needed more than ever. I think again, like you say, with the rise of the far right and other um, different groups, I think why not? I mean, like you say, there's still a lot of, but there's some, isn't there, sports people now coming out, and um, I think not I don't know about making it easier, but definitely um, opening the eyes to people. So again, there seems to be a stigma, doesn't there, or has to be in sports. You know, you uh, can't be gay or not accepted, but I don't think that's the case not from the things that I read these days, from interviews and with athletes and that are gay. So I don't know. But yeah, going back to what you say, I think pride is needed more than ever. Um, it definitely needs to keep going because why not? And it's just celebrate it.
I think that's a very healthy viewpoint of rather than people saying why, just say why not. I think that's a very good way of looking at it. Like people are saying, why do you still need this? And you going, I mean, you're not even a member of the community, and you're just like, yeah, I don't care. Why not?
I'm an ally.
You're an ally, and your allyship is always massively appreciated. Any allyship is always massively appreciated, especially when I consider in my past there have been times where people have been like, "Oh, what's wrong?" And I've gone to say like something relationship advice, and they kind of like clam up and they're like, "Oh no, I don't want to talk about this." And it's like, "Oh, sorry." Essentially, it's actually really nice and refreshing to have a straight male who's an ally, whereas in the past, don't get me wrong, I have had friends in the past who are allies, but back when I was growing up, it was definitely not the norm to talk about male relationships with other male people within my life without kind of raising some eyebrows of some sort.
Mm, mm. No, no, it's good. No, always here for you and anybody. Yeah.
Aw. I would agree with your sentiment of pride is needed more than ever, and I'm going to tie into something that happened quite recently. So, with the area I live in, so I'm not too far from Milton Keynes. I live out towards Bedfordshire way, and there is a famous gay club in Milton Keynes called Pink Punters. And unfortunately, very recently it was attacked in a what is at the time of this recording assumed to be a premeditated anti-LGBTQIA plus attack. So whenever you see people say, "Oh, why is pride needed?" I would point to something like that as an example of someone trying to firebomb a safe space for people as a reason as to why these events are still needed.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. I've never been, but I've heard um, it's a really good night out, isn't it, for everybody apparently. Um,
So, funnily
but
enough, my
yeah,
sister's been,
shame.
and she's not a member of the community, but I haven't been, and I am. But essentially, I was meant to go with someone from my old workplace called Sadiq ages back. He wanted to go there, and apparently there was a barwoman that he said apparently was into him and he wanted to see her and he was like, no, we're gonna go, we're gonna have a really good time. Another really great ally. And he was just like, yeah, like we're gonna go, we're gonna have a great time. I'll message you when we're gonna go. That was back in 2017, and we still not have been since. So Sadiq, if you are listening on the off chance, it's been 9 years, and the club's been attacked since. But I'm still going to try
Yeah,
and hold you to
Sadiq,
it down the
she
line.
still might be waiting for you. Brilliant.
Maybe
Yeah.
she is.
We'll go when it reopens, Josh. We'll go to the reopening night. There you go.
I think we should. I mean, obviously, around
Yeah.
your end of the world, kind of again, not too far from me, we also have the Boston. That's in Northampton. That's also quite a nice little place to go. I've only been there a couple of times, not because it's like bad or anything, but one, it's Northampton, so I have to obviously commute to get there or fork out massively for a taxi. And two, we've both been at multiple work dues together, and you know that the second it gets past like 9:30, 10 o'clock, I'm like, I'm tired. My social batteries run out, so I think I'm going to head home soon.
Yeah, you did miss out. There was a few times we ended up in there, especially on a Friday. I think it's £10 to get in and £1 to drink all night. You can't beat that.
I think that's what's so good about it. It's a case of like, yeah, you had a door fee to get in, but then every drink afterwards was £1. So ultimately, you ended up saving a load of money compared to if you just went to like a Spoons or something.
Yeah, it is a good night in there. I must admit, like I said, I've been in there a few times, and it's yeah, it's pretty chilled, and everybody's yeah, good spirits. So yeah, that's I don't think there's any mucking about in there either in terms of letting in um, any sort of agitators or anything. So I think it's well run.
Yes.
Yeah.
Going back to your sports comment about sports stars coming out, obviously back in my time
Mm,
there was Gareth Thomas, the rugby player. He was the kind of first big one
yeah.
to come out. I don't feel like there's been as many in football as you would expect. Obviously, you have some in terms of diving, so like Tom Daley, very big sports LGBTQIA plus person. But in terms of sports and queer media, have you heard of a program called Heated Rivalry?
No, I have.
I'm gonna lose my gay stripes here because I'm one of the few people in the community who haven't watched it. It's purely because it's on a TV channel I don't have. But essentially, it's about two men on rival hockey teams, and they end up having a romance. But obviously, they've got to keep up the facade of their unrivaling hockey teams, so they've got to look like they hate each other, but secretly they're having a gay affair. But just before Christmas, that came out, and that was really popular. And it led to a lot of mainstream acclaim, and all the people that were in it. While I mean, some had been in different things, but no one who was like a massive A-list actor. I believe one of the main actors who was in it, a guy called Hudson Williams, I think was like a waiter before he was in the program. So
Okay.
that garnered a lot of critical praise. My sister watched it recently because I said, "Oh, I've heard about this," and she has the channel it comes on, and she sent me a little screenshot of them in the showers next to each other, and she was like 5 minutes in the episode, and she was like, "What is this that you've told me to watch?" Because apparently it's very sexually explicit as well. So anyone who was thinking about watching it who hasn't yet, that is your warning. But
Yeah.
yeah, but that one has a lot of acclaim. So I'll have to let you know that when I get round to watching it, if it is worth the hype or not.
Yeah. Yeah. Let us know. Be interesting to hear your yeah, yeah, your review.
What I'll do is I'll do a review. I'll do two separate reviews. I'll do a review of the sex scenes, and then I'll do a review of the actual story. I could put like on
Mm,
my little bit of paper, like sex scenes, 10, love story, like 3. Something like
yeah.
that.
Okay. Perfect. I'll
To
wait with anticipation.
when it comes to kind of like two questions to round this one off. When it comes to pride and I suppose LGBTQA plus media in terms of film and music, do you have a certain song you think of when you think of pride, and do you have a certain favourite queer film?
Um, music. I'm trying to think. Maybe I'm gonna yeah, tongue in cheek. I'm gonna go Electric Six music with with Gay Bar.
Do you know what?
Got a brilliant tune.
You could have literally picked any Electric Six song, and I'd have been like, oh, okay, makes sense.
Well, to be
I
fair, I haven't heard many of their other songs, but that one was a banger. Yeah.
Do you like their other one, Danger High Voltage?
Oh yeah, that's the other one, isn't it? Yeah, forgot about that one.
Me
Yeah.
and Dan
Oh, I'm gonna
were
have to go back and
watching.
listen to them later.
Me and Dan were watching, like, we stuck on a YouTube playlist of music and that song came on. And the music video to Danger High Voltage is a wild one. I'm not sure if you've ever seen it, but essentially two people kiss and their body parts like light up. But also, it is a banger of a song. Every so often, I'll just be
Yeah.
walking along, and especially if I see a sign that alludes to danger or electricity, because I look at it and the first place my mind will go to is danger, danger, high voltage. That's literally
High voltage.
it.
Brilliant.
In
No,
terms,
movie wise, I think I was going to say movie wise, I think I watched a really good film a few months back. Actually, it's based on a true story, but funny enough, it's called Pride. Seen it?
do you know what? That is literally written on my list.
Oh, is it? Okay, yeah. 2014, wasn't it? About London-based lesbian and gay activist group. They formed the Alliance, didn't they, to raise money for the striking miners during the 84, 85 miners' strike. I just thought it was such a great film. Yeah, and quite educational as well.
Yeah, do you know what? I went round my best friend Clara's house. Again, another massive ally. I'd like to shout her out, who's always been there. Essentially, I went round her flat and I'd literally just caught the end of it when she'd been watching it with her husband. And it's the bit at the very end when the people from the Welsh town all turn up and the woman gets out of the minibus and she goes, "Where are my lesbians?" I remember walking in going, "What's this?" And she was like, "Oh, it's called Pride." And she really rated it. And I watched it later down the line and ended up really enjoying it. Do you know what as well? Fun fact. So my best friend Clara, the one who was watching Pride, she actually took me to my first Pride event back in 2016 in Brighton as well. So not only do I think of when I think of Pride, not only do I think of seeing the end of the film Pride around hers, I also think of the she actually took me to my first one, which I always massively appreciated. So yeah. To bring it back to films, in terms of other films I've watched, you have Brokeback Mountain as kind of the staple that I mentioned earlier because it was popular as I was growing up. That one's good but sad. A lot of gay films, unfortunately, have a
Mm,
sad ending, so sometimes it becomes a bit
mm.
of a I don't want to say a chore, but you have to whack one on and be like, "Oh, this is probably going to have a sad ending," because 95% of them do. But you also have me and Dan, my husband, watched one in the cinema in 2018 called Love, Simon. Have you seen that one?
No, no, I haven't.
So the plot of that one is so there's a boy called Simon who knows he's gay, and he ends up writing emails to this other guy in his year who is also secretly gay, and they basically talk about their struggles. And unfortunately, other plot things happen which lead to Simon being outed and he starts to lose contact with this person who has been emailing. And then I won't spoil the rest of the film because that also probably already was a bit of a big spoiler. But that one's a really nice coming of age one. And when me and Dan watched it at the cinema, when it ended, we were next to this big group of girls. So there was about four or five of them. And we get up out of our seats to go and walk out of our cinema aisle. And they're all crying. And I'm just stood there. You know what I'm like? I'm really socially awkward. I stood there and I turned to my husband and I was just like, do I like tell them to stop crying and leave? Like, what do I do in this situation? Do I just dive over the chair in front of me? And after about a good 10 seconds of sobbing, they looked at us and then went, "Oh, sorry," and then just let us go through.
Mm.
Also, in terms of like other films, there's one called Free Fall or Free Fall if you're watching it in German, which is pretty good. There's one that was on Netflix. I'm not sure if it is still on Netflix. It was called In From the Side, where it was about gay players in a rugby team. And it was one of those films where it's like the plot of this film is messy, but the love scenes were hot. So do with that what you will. But you also have other ones like
Maybe
God's
10 out
Own.
of 10.
Yeah, the men in it were quite attractive. There's also one called God's Own Country, which is quite a good one. So those were that's kind of like, and I was going to say Pride, but that was also one of your ones as well. But in
There you
terms
go.
of music, I'd probably say Proud by Heather Small because they always play that at a Pride event. So it's hard not to think of that one in a queer context. But then
Yeah.
also there's one called Car Lights by a singer slash YouTuber called James Marriott, which is about meeting up with another guy like in secret and not being they might be exposed by like passing by car lights. That's a really nice sentimental one. And there's also, and I can tie this one back to work. Do you remember back in the office, I used to play Spotify DJ, mainly with Mason, but with a couple of other people as well.
Yeah.
So, listeners, if you don't know what Spotify DJ is, it's essentially where you recommend one song to someone and they recommend a song back to you, and you try and essentially broaden out your music taste into songs you may not have heard or throwbacks to songs you've forgotten about. And Kurt recommended a song called Satellites by Enter Shikari, and that one is about not having to hide your queerness anymore and wanting to be with someone. And that's a really good one. So Kurt, if you are listening, thank you, because that one is in my regular playlist as well. And I'm not normally a massive Enter Shikari fan, so yeah, that one
Okay.
as well.
Yeah. I'll give that a listen myself.
To round this one off, is there any particular celebrity where you're like, you are the LGBT icon in my eyes? Is there a particular one?
In my eyes, hmm, I'm gonna go. It's gonna sound cheesy, but I'm gonna pick you, Josh, as my gay icon.
Do you know what? That's
I
not
have
what
to
I
pick you.
expected in the slightest.
Well, I've got to pick you. I mean, plus, your and Dan's wedding was like my first gay wedding I went to or have been to. Actually, I've got another one coming up in September with Robbie and Will, so I must be a lucky mascot or something.
You must be.
Um,
You're a common denominator in both.
yeah, just for the record, I'm not marrying Robbie and Will. I'm just as a guest, but um,
Well,
yeah.
I
But then
didn't think
again,
that until you said it. But
my, my wife Louise might prefer it if I did bugger off, though. We used to, funny story, we used to go around Soho having the weekend away and drinking, and we used to go in the bars, and she'd be like chatting guys up at the bar and telling them I was a bear. So then when I come, this would always happen when I'd sort of nipped off to the toilet. So when I come back, I'd be unaware, and then all of a sudden these guys would be like chatting me up and flirting with me, and then she'd be laughing later on, telling me what she'd done. So yeah, I'm the bear of Soho.
do you know what? That is true allyship right there. And do you know what? That
Yeah,
is honestly so funny. And also, would Karen have done the same thing? Would have been as fun? I
no,
don't think so.
no, Karen would have sold me to the highest bidder.
Well, as much as I'd love to say you're my gay icon, obviously you're not. But you can be
Yeah.
you can be my straight ally icon off this podcast.
Oh, I'll be whoever you want me to be, Josh. Whoever you want me to be.
Oh, now I
Always
feel a
there
bit
for you.
bad as to what my real answers are actually going to be to this, because obviously they're not going to be you. So, in terms of pop stars, my holy trinity are the obvious ones. So, like Lady Gaga, Madonna, Kylie. Those are like your pop girly ones. In terms of local gay icon, though, someone who is from the Northamptonshire area, I'll probably pick Alan Carr, who, well, I say recent, last October, Celebrity Traitors winner. Also, he is from Northamptonshire, so he's someone who's local to the both of us. And
Mm.
also, I've been to his stand-up, and it's honestly just so funny. But I also have I told you this story about how I botched my chance to meet him at a party?
No,
So
tell me.
this was back when I was unemployed, the first time, back in like 2010, 2011. There was a house party that was like a friend of a friend was throwing, and like it was. This is how back in the day it was. People were organising it over Facebook. It was a case of like someone asked me like, "Hey, do you want to go?" And I was like, "No, I don't really know the person involved, and plus I'm skint." And it's too last minute for me to ask people to run me to it. And they went, "Oh, apparently Alan Carr's going to be there," and it was like a fancy dress party as well. And I was like, "Oh no, he probably won't be." And plus, I don't have a costume. I have no one to run me. I'm skint, so I can't afford alcohol anyway. So I'm just gonna have to give this a miss. And then the next day, I send him a little like at him on Twitter, And I was like, oh, is it true you were at this party and whatnot? Thinking, oh, he one won't respond and two probably wasn't there anyway. He does respond to my tweet and he put, yeah, like I was there
Wow.
and I dressed up as Andy from Lou and Andy. It was a great time. And I was so gutted I missed my chance to meet him in a completely
Brilliant. Good old Andy.
non-paid meet and greet setting.
Yeah, I've never
So
come
yeah,
across him in Northampton. But yeah.
it's weird when I was watching him. I can't remember if it was on Chatty Man, if it was on something else, but he references Karaoke Karen. Now, to listeners who aren't from Northamptonshire, Karaoke Karen was just a woman who just used to turn up with a little karaoke box just in public places and just sing. Unfortunately, she's passed away now, but she was
Mm,
kind of like a Northamptonshire legend at one point.
yeah. Yeah, and 50p Lil.
But I did get my photo with Alan Carr later down the line. I went to one of his stand-up shows. It was kind of towards the end of like when you could wear masks in public, but he went, "Oh, does anyone want a photo with me?" And I was on the very front row, and I was like, "Yeah, okay." And I took a photo and like selfie, and he's behind me, and I go to take a couple, and he's like, "Oh, whenever you're ready," and whatnot. And I'm like, I'm so nervous because I'm doing it in front of everyone. My hand's shaking, so I take the photo, and one, I've got a mask in my photo, and two, the photo's blurry. You can make him out in the background, but it's a bit blurry than I would have liked. And then literally every person who went after me took their mask off and took their photo, and I was so gutted because now mine's ruined by my COVID mask.
Bless you. Can't you Photoshop the mask to put some lips on you or something like Mick Jagger lips or
Maybe. I mean, if I was going to Photoshop anything, I'd probably Photoshop myself to be buff before my photo with Alan Carr. But yeah. So,
brilliant.
Alan Carr things aside, I think that is a good place to end this one. Unless there's anything else you wanna chime in with.
No, that's it. I've really enjoyed today's show conversation. It's been great.
Oh, always happy to do this with you, my straight ally on the pod. What we'll do is we will leave that one there, but we will be back shortly with another episode. Just want to say to any members of the community or any allies, happy Pride Month. And just remember that you can, like with Pride Month, you can follow us and show our support either on Spotify, which is Still Not Famous, or if you're listening to this on YouTube, it's also Still Not Famous. You can follow us on Instagram, it's at Still Not Famous Pod. TikTok, which is of the same handle name. You can also follow our Facebook page, which is Still Not Famous. But as I'd like to always remind everyone, if you leave a derogatory comment, my mum will be lurking in the comment section herself, waiting. On that front, I would like to say, whatever time of day you are listening to this, it is good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night, and we'll speak to you soon.
Good night. Yeah, happy Pride. See you all. Bye.